What's up? I do believe this is the final part. And in the previous part, please go check it out to get your bearings, etc. I'm busy explaining why it is that you people need to wait on the Lord. For husbands, first of all, you need to repent, and then after repenting, you need to be prepared to wait and also engage in courtship instead of just regular dating. Otherwise, you're going to end up having Muriel's wedding. I was explaining that my ex-boyfriend was on thin ice all throughout the relationship because I was already very severely dissatisfied just 6 months into the relationship, and this was because of balls that he dropped. I tried to restore us back to that honeymoon phase, but he was not giving, man. It was just not giving. Anyway, whatever. That whole thing with my ex is evidence of what under heaven would have happened once I married him. I would have if at all I didn't give my life to Jesus Christ. If I had gotten saved in a marriage with my ex-boyfriend, I would have been a frustrated Christian woman with an ungodly man. And I would have stayed with him because of godliness, right? But been very unhappy. However, if I was lost, I was going to cheat. It was inevitable because look at what happened when we were dating. I didn't cheat on him. It was during a time when we were broken up, and one guy I kissed and made out with a whole bunch, and the other dude I went on a date with him. The one that I went on a date with, nothing happened. We didn't kiss, nothing, just hugs and handshakes, right? Type thing. Yeah. Anyway, if that happened with two guys and there were other guys that did not step up to the occasion, that if they had, I would have left them. I would have left my ex for them. What would have happened in a marriage? When a relationship is already that unstable, when a person or a couple of people are already that unhappy prior to marriage, why do you just marry because you've been together for years? Like, what's the point? What's the point? You're just going to cheat on each other, and you're going to cheat so early in the marriage that you are going to feel ashamed of yourselves. You're going to feel dirty. You're going to feel dirty. You're going to have affairs with colleagues. The dude that wasted time to pursue you, that was your colleague, now that you're married, is all of a sudden going to be talking to you more. Crushes are going to be flying all over the show. You are going to be guilty. I had a colleague slash friend, actually. I had a colleague slash friend that married her, not so much high school sweetheart, but varsity sweetheart. Like, they were together in school, in higher learning together. That's where they met. And when she would tell me stories about how they met and how their relationship was when they met, it just reminded me of my ex-boyfriend and I. Like, initial excitement, very happy, wajola, ukjola nje. You are just jollering with a person, just dating a person that you get along with, and because you're in the world, you're having a whole bunch of sex. Because you're in the world, you are also doing things that are worldly, and you are creating memories, taking photos and all that jazz. And that is making you feel as if though when this guy then wants to take out ilobola, I'm gonna let him. And that's what my friend slash colleague did. They didn't even have a white wedding. They just had the whole traditional thing, and she just let him not propose, but she let him pay lobola. Right? And I believe Nakona, it was paid because she fell pregnant. Right? They ultimately had like 4 kids or whatnot in the marriage. Well, as at the last time that I knew her, she had just given birth to her 4th child. Alright? Yeah. This chick, however, before the baby number 3 and baby number 4 were created, she had 2 sons. Before 3 and 4 came into the picture, remember, I worked for MTN for 5 years. Yeah, she had those 2 extra kids in the latter part of those 5 years, but in the early part of those 5 years, at the time I was still a coordinator, she was a project manager, but we were close, we were tight. And there's a man that came from like another country, I think it could have been Lesotho, Botswana or whatever, and he briefly came, he was working with MTN on something. I don't know if he belonged to MTN Group, like one of the opcos, operating companies of MTN from Botswana or Lesotho, or if he was just a contractor. I don't know what he was, but he was working with us, do you understand? And my friend was the project manager that was basically heading the service that he was providing MTN South Africa in that capacity. And so she met basically an international man, if you want to call it international, if it's around the corner. She met this guy from this particular other country for the project that she was working on, and like sparks literally flew as soon as they were introduced. Hi, this is John, this is Refilwe. And the Refilwe, of course I'm making names up, you guys know that. Refilwe was like, she and John just, sparks flew. And as soon as they met each other, they were exchanging these funny looks. And now, I don't know what kind of man John was, but I do know what kind of woman Refilwe was. She was not the kind to just flirt with everything and everyone. She was not the kind of woman to feel bored with her husband. So that was a temptation that was a first and a real and a live one after very many years. All over the show. Maybe John was a player all over the show, but Refilwe wasn't. She wasn't that girl. And yet this guy did something in her, and it stumbled her so horrifically that the two of them Like, you know, when a person is outwardly, you know how I can describe what happened with John and Refilwe, but not the finished deal. It did not complete itself though. She exercised self-control. It was exactly like Harley in Temptation. Harley who tempts Judith in Temptation. Like a man that speaks such, he's so blunt and so candid to a woman that's like, oh my goodness, how could you say that? I'm a married woman, whoa. But like, you then get very turned on and attracted by his frankness. How frank he is. There are women who get attracted by just the resolve of men when they're pursuing them. That is enough to just make them fall apart. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this dude had that kind of resolve. He rocked up and he had a whole Harley vibe. A man that's talking to Judith like, Hebatum, dude. Like, yeah, you if you've seen the movie Temptation, you'll know what I'm talking about. Even the way that he described what he, like, you know, sexual innuendo, just thick in the room. Him making it clear that I want you. I think you're beautiful. Are you happy with your husband? You know, like you and I, yeah. He was like that. That dude did that to this former friend of mine. And at somewhere along the way, like, yeah, literally, like, she just couldn't anymore. She couldn't resist. They were told, like, they would be left in meetings together and talk. And this guy would be like, I think you're so beautiful. I think you're so, like, yeah. Like, you know, when a man is just, like, out here, just, like, all different kinds of pheromones. He's just, like, literally buckets of pheromones. He's just showering you with all that stuff. And you are just getting reeled in, even though you want to exercise self-control. This whole thing got to a point where it is that this chick was now planning on going. This dude was from another country like Botswana or Lesotho or something. Okay? And he had a wife and children in Botswana or Lesotho. Just as my friend had a husband and children, like a whole stable marriage. And the two of them were basically saying, look, I'm going back to my wife. You're going back to your husband. We live in different countries. This can't work. But we clearly want each other. Let's book into a resort somewhere in the Bundus over the weekend. You'll tell your husband that it's work, and I'll tell, well, my wife knows that I am chilling in South Africa right now on business, and we'll go there and we'll spend the weekend together and enjoy ourselves, because I have to go back home. But we know that we've got this thing that we're feeling, and my former friend was thoroughly considering it. She was seriously considering it. And during that time, all she could talk about was how it is that, oh, every time I look at my husband, he's like, ugh. Every time when I look at him around the house, I mean, he's like, ugh. Like, her facial expressions were so hilarious. She'd be like, ugh. She would even squint on something, my husband is boring. This woman married a man. I remember she would tell me stories about when they were still dating. I get it, they met in varsity years, and she was very unhappy with his line of work, what he chose to do. And because women were always all up in his grill. And so she basically pressurized him out of that job because she was like, I can't because Basadi Baba all over the show. So the husband left that craft for her. However, there were other things that she would look, you know, like there are just things that, you know, where before you marry a person that just don't do it. Just let it go. Don't, like, move on. She described, first of all, she told me that she had been with him since those days. And it reminded me of my relationship with my guy. And over and above having been with him those days, there are things that were just all up in that relationship prior to them getting married that were big issues. And they still married each other, I guess, for the sake of the one pregnancy. And now all these years down the line, there is this, like, dude that came from out of nowhere from another country working with her. And she was thoroughly considering the adulterous affair. At the time, I was lost. I was not born again, so I did not know how to gauge that scripturally. Meaning that, enough for me, it was about the happiness of my friend. I was like, something in me had a glitchy cognitive, like, I had a twitch in me, like a robot. In the sense that I was like, Mara, he's your husband, you're married, and there's a lot. There's a lot here that is at stake. Like, you've got 2 kids and a husband, like a whole family. That could get heavy for you if you went ahead with this. And on top of that, this guy, it's also, this could be very messy. He's not single, he's also got a wife and children. This is too much. You can't just run with this. But I was thinking that, but at the same time I was like, but you get along with him, you love him, you like him, whatever it is that are those feelings. I want my girl to be happy. I was confused because, you see, when you don't have a moral law in your heart, when you don't have a moral absolute, when God is not the one that's guarding your ways, you just run with whatever makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy. I just want you to be happy, my friend. So I was caught between worlds. My conscience was telling me this is wrong and it's messing with 2 families, but my compromise and my flaccid fluffy support for sin, because it promised to make my friend happy. I was like, but whatever makes you happy. I did not know how to advise her. I did not know what to say. I was just caught between worlds. That's what I'm getting at. I was caught between the adultery that would hurt a lot of people, but also the fact that she was clearly unhappy to a point where she thinks her husband is just the thing that's just drooling and very, very boring. The weekend came and went, and when she came back on Monday, I asked her, so what did you decide? She was like, I decided not to go. So I guess maybe she went home and just like, who's this? If you've seen that movie with Chris, is it Tucker? Chris, the one that was not Tucker Hill, Chris Rock with Kerry Washington. I Think I Love My Wife. Yeah, he made a decision not to cheat on his wife. Well, I mean, he did cheat. He kissed her, he made out, he went to a hotel room, he did, but he did not have sex with her, type thing. He did not finish it off because he looked in the mirror and saw his tie on his head and realized and remembered the game that he played with his kids and felt like, okay, I'm messing with the marriage here, I'm messing with my wife, I'm messing with my children, and he decided not to cheat with the adulterous woman type thing. He had a Chris Rock moment in I Think I Love My Wife. He did. She had a Chris Rock moment in I Think I Love My Husband, because I think she went home and just saw her kids and her husband and just was like, I can't do this. And so even though the guy had, like, I believe the guy was actually already planning on going there to just see South Africa, but then he invited her type establishment thing. So I think he still went to his resort place type thing, but she did not join him. Urifilwe did not join him because she had cognitive, you get my point. She was conflicted, but that's the kind of stuff that happens when you marry a person that you were kind of apprehensive with in the beginning. Such temptations can slap you when you're married happily, indeed, to a man that you love or a woman that you love, but it is, the risk of it is exacerbated by people who enter into marriages when they already are apprehensive about each other. When you are Muriel, or when you are Muriel's husband, that kind of stuff is very highly likely going to happen in a marriage. I was already apprehensive about my ex when we were dating, but if at all he were to propose marriage to me, I was going to accept. Because that's just what people do when they're in the world. They just settle. They just settle. And the pursuit in South Africa, there's just such a big fat chunky problem with Korobela. There is such a big fat chunky problem with bring back lost lover. Coercive romance, basically just forcing people to be in relationships they don't want to be in. That whole coercive thing is what causes adultery later on in marriages, and also divorce that results in remarriages to people that people were having affairs with. Because you married a man where the spark was lost. Everything was gone. You were apprehensive. There was just so much that you were unhappy with, but you ran with it. You ran with it. You ran with whatever under heaven it is that you imagined was going to benefit you ultimately. But then it just did not work out. Like, women romanticize the prospect of getting married so much that they just accept proposals coming from men that they, at the time of the proposal, have got so many problems with. Marriage is not going to fix that. And then on top of that, like I said, I started out talking about my gori like Korobela. I'm suffering from Korobela abuse right now. And I'm suffering from getting dreams of friends who are regretful for the decisions that they have made, for my friends. Decisions that they've made. They wish they were in my life. They wish they had stood with Christ, but they didn't. They then became really embittered and then afflicted me with sorcery. They then denied that they did it once I found out. They banded with each other and afflicted the living daylights out of me. And now are in such hot water that they are too embarrassed and ashamed to admit what they did at a minimum, that they might be restored to God. And because of the embarrassment of having practiced witchcraft, they are now basically trying, like, doing witchcraft so as to bring me into the same misery as them, that things might be back to normal already. Except it's not normal when everybody is operating in a curse. It's not normal when I settle the way you settle so that we can all be on equal playing ground. It's not normal. I'm fighting for something here and I belong to something special. It's a worthwhile war to make this. It's a worthwhile war to make. They feel guilty for the fact that I'm literally facing death every single day. That I am being pursued by some pretty dangerous men that are trying to kill me. That is eating them alive. The part of my life is in danger. Yabaj. Because they did not intend for things to get this far. Gender-based violence in this country is something that pretty much every woman in the nation agrees is rubbish and must stop. And so the fact that I'm being so badly abused by this guy in America, The fact that I am being so badly abused by other random strangers that don't know me, that feel entitled to me, kadikorobela iyabadla. Indaba yokuthi bona they were brought into marriages ngamakorobela, marrying men that they did not want, or men that they were determined to leave, but then they ended up getting reeled back into the lives of, using bring back lost lover. It happened to them because they fell under spells. They capitulated. I'm not capitulating, and so with me it's so forceful, it's coercive to a point of being abusive, and they don't like the abuse. They don't like the fact that men are forcing me. Because bona, they were tricked into it, and they appeared to consent. They glided into it. And so what's bothering them richly is the coercive component. It is tabare. This thing, it's ugly. Like they are, what's the word that I'm looking for? They're shocked, thank you, that men are this evil. They're shocked at just how far they're prepared to go to get women that don't belong to them. How can I... Remember the other day I said that if a woman does not stand with a woman that is facing rape or has been raped, she's not a woman. Because how in the world can you observe so much violence against women and not stand for them? And I was feeling like all of these random nasty females all over the show are half women because they are happy to basically proliferate my abuse. Well, from what I saw in the dream that I got last night, some of them aren't. If anything, they're extremely angry at the disgusting state of men right now. But they are angry in a position or a place where they've been taken by the thing that's trying to take me. And so they want to make me relatable. They want to make me essentially partake. You know the saying, misery loves company. The way we are all getting harassed by the same kind of spirit. But with them, they were fooled into thinking it's love. And they ran with it. And now they're embittered. Whereas with me, I've avoided it. And so now they are seeing just how badly they would have been abused if they had stuck to their guns. If they'd said no. If they had continued to walk away from men that reeled them back in Kakorobela. They are seeing how hard it would have been to do that. They are making an observation of just how abusive they are, and it's indeed it is successfully disgusting them, but not enough to have my back, because they still feel like they are jealous. I survived that which got to them, but they hate the violence that men are walking in. The thing that my ex-boyfriend is. The thing that all these men forcing women to be with them is bayayizonda. But they also hate the fact that they caved. They hate the fact that they settled. They hate the fact that they didn't see it for what it was. And so they're essentially disgusted with either their husbands or ex-husbands. They're disgusted with men in their lives. They can't stand them. They can't stand them. But they also can't stand that I survived. You get my point? Like, I don't even know how best to describe this. It's wanting everybody in the room to be crying because they got raped, and then hating the one person that ran from her rapist before they could rip apart their clothes. Hating the one woman that survived rape. The one woman that escaped. Basically the one woman who was attempted raped while they all were raped. They now are banding against me because I am an attempted rape victim, whereas they are rape victims. They're rape victims, I'm an attempted rape victim. And that's the thing that's making it hard for them to love and embrace me. Because they're like, but why did I have to get finished off? Why by these guys? Why did it work on me? I've been explaining why it worked on you women. You did not give your lives to Christ, and you were given enough to know that that's the way out. My former best friend, we were talking about the things of Jesus at the same time she wanted to get out. Because she did not get serious with the Lord, she was not rescued. I got serious. And so I got rescued from the same thing that pulled her back in. The same thing that pulled her back in could not pull me back in because I was held. I was pegged into the ground by Jesus. So you cannot say that the Lord did not have your back, because he did. He had all of y'all's backs. It's just that you are the ones that turned your backs on him, and I ran with it. I ran with whatever the Lord was offering. And so for those reasons, I survived rape. I did. I survived infection, HIV. I survived all different kinds of STDs. I survived finding out that my husband is the baby daddy of some kid that is my kid's age. I survived ending up in a marriage with a guy that, you know, I survived it. But I am 39 and single. And that is what is making them be like, would I have been 39 and single if I had resisted? Would I have been 40 and single if I had resisted like Karabo, would I also be essentially rendered a barren woman, unable to have children even though I want them? If I had done what Karabo did, my answer to that question is no. You know why? Because where two or three are gathered, their God is with us. My situation is only because of how rare it is that women are turning to God truly and trusting him with their romantic stories. And so when there's only one person in a country praying for a change, or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 100, the fact that they are overwhelmed and beleaguered on all sides by 1 million, 2 million, 3 million means that it's going to be very hard for them to walk in fulfilled prayer. What's going to happen with them rather is that the Lord will rather choose to extract them out of that ecosystem and then, judge everybody else. There were literally just too many people willing to settle for this thing and no godly people to give me success and prosperity in what I was asking for. I keep using this description. A woman that converts to Christianity in a country like Iran or a country like North Korea, you become a second-class citizen immediately. And worldly men want nothing to do with you. For a season anyway. You become fetishized and it becomes very hard to find other Christians. It becomes very hard to fellowship with them successfully without being beleaguered on all sides by those who resist the body of Christ. The witches of the world make it very hard for people living in countries that are hostile to the gospel to truly just thrive in their Christianity. So my case would not be this extreme. If South Africa was actually truly a godly country, if South Africa was truly godly, I would have gotten married at maybe, seeing as I turned to Christ at 26, I might have gotten married at like 30 at the latest. Maybe 29, maybe 28. My ex's witchcraft would not have gone anywhere. The problem here was the fact that he was helped by so many people at the same time that he was trying to bring me back in. My friends were trying to force me to settle. Witchcraft was happening rampantly. My family members were bewitching me. The country that is professing Christ, busy praying in tongues in churches, is using witchcraft. Abazalwane bayatagata. That's what I'm getting at. Aksabazalwane. They're not Christian. These professing Christians are using witchcraft. And so the true body of Christ is extremely persecuted. And with that level of extremity of persecution, it then becomes near on impossible to truly, fill the earth and occupy it. Christians in persecuting lands can't live full lives because their countries are persecuting them. That's why the Bible says that they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. The only way that you'll be able to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and occupy it is if you live somewhere where Christianity is thriving as a Christian. But if it is persecuted, you are going to struggle to get a husband. You are going to struggle to have children in peace. You are going to struggle to even be on medical aid. You're going to struggle to work. The world is around you is going to make you a second-grade citizen. Like in India, like in North Korea, like in Iran. So South Africa, this is only evidencing the apostasy of the country. There are witches in churches. They know that this is true. People who are watching my content now know this is true. There are people who watch my content who want to be godly, but they keep dabbling with sorcery. There's a woman that I met in South Africa that fellowshipped with me. I fellowshipped with her briefly. She DM'd me and I was communicating with her briefly. And after just 2 weeks, she couldn't help but cast spells on me. She couldn't help it. She threw sorcery on me. She is yet another South African professing Christian that can't help but every so often put her grubby hands in the cookie jar and steal something. And so seeing as these people who profess Christ are using witchcraft, including the very friend that I've just described right now with the husband, she used witchcraft on me. I also had another friend that used sorcery on me. That was the one that drove me to church for the first 3 Sundays when I was interested in Jesus Christ. She picked me up with her husband and her child, and then she turns around and casts spells on my prospects for marriage. Abantu that call themselves Christians, batletse rima, batletse grace, bayatagata. They call themselves believers, but they're using witchcraft. And so those that don't touch this stuff, abangatagati, those that don't want to curse others, that don't want to help God along in the agenda, are so beleaguered and so therefore so very persecuted that they can't possibly live full lives. So women, I would not have gotten to the age of almost 40, single, having never been married, everything sucking, if South Africa was truly Christian. If this nation was actually Christian, I wouldn't be here. I'm only here because I'm among the few Christians in this country that are holding down with Jesus Christ onlyism. With Christ onlyism. In other words, Jesus Christ, him and him only. He is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through him. Everybody else that is professing Christ are mixing. They're mixing. They're mixing ancestral worship with Christianity. They're mixing witchcraft with Christianity. They're mixing Eastern mysticism with Christianity, Buddhism with Christianity, with all different kinds of mystery religions with Christianity. They are worldly, they're lukewarm. And so because they are not truly consecrated to God, the true believers are being resisted by the lukewarm, by the mixers. and the lukewarm are marrying each other and then blaming it on Jesus. They're walking down the aisle to men, Baba Tumpilenga Korobela, like Muriel's wedding. Women are walking down the aisle to them, Baba Tumpilenga Korobela, Muriel's wedding. Or Marabarab. I said the man version is Marabarab. Men are marrying Muriel and women are marrying Marabarab. They are having Muriel and Marabaraba's wedding. One partner in that pair is elated because he or she prospered to Korobela a person into the marriage, while the other individual is apprehensive. Guys, this is happening, yes, in the black community because black people batandu tagata. But in my old church, there was a couple that was Muriel's wedding. The woman was Muriel. The woman was Muriel and the guy was the disgusted and prepared Oki. He had dated this chick from high school. They broke up, got back together because of this chick's Korobela. And when they were marrying, apparently from what it is that the stories were being told, because I was not there yet when they got married. By the time I met them, they'd already gotten married. Apparently the guy wasn't happy. He was just blasé. Even on the photos, it showed that he was not elated on his wedding day. And my thing with that was, why did you finish it off? Why did you marry her, dude? Like, seriously, was it to please the church? Was it to please your parents? Was it to please her parents? Was it to please her? How in the world do you get married when you are apprehensive? They didn't have children. There was nothing tying this guy to this woman, nothing. And he went on right ahead and married Muriel. She was elated. And even when they were recalling their wedding day, I remember when they were talking about their wedding day, I was already with them. It was a Bible study hosted at their house. This dude spoke about the marriage as, yeah, on that day. And this woman was like, what do you mean on that day? It was our wedding. It was nice. And I was like, you married her despite feeling odd on your own wedding day. Why did you not cancel it? Brother man, why didn't you cancel it? Why under heaven didn't you cancel Linyalo with a woman? I just want to check the battery if it's okay. Why under heaven did you not cancel a marriage where a woman was happy and you were not? You could have at any given moment in the run-up to stopped it. And yes, the church might have given you grief. They might have called you all different kinds of nasty names for being mean to the girl, blah, blah, whatever. But you are trying to build a legacy as a man. You're going to go into the future and be known as this woman's husband, and she's going to be known as your baby mama. She's going to be the mother of your children. She's going to be revered and regarded by your community as your wife. Your shadow, your shield is going to be over her and not the woman you truly love. Everybody's going to respect her. And when you go out there and fall in love with some other woman that you love more than her, nobody will have any respect for this other woman. They will call her an adulteress, a homewrecker, while the one that you can't stand is being pitied and comforted at your expense. You knew all this on the day that you married her, and you still married her. Like Muriel's weddings all over the country, and the couple was a colored white pair. It was not black. So perhaps this is not a black only issue. It was a colored white pair. The woman was colored, the guy was white. So if it can happen to colored people, white people, black people, it's happening to South Africans. People are bringing people into their lives. They're reeling them in, and they can tell on their wedding days that I don't want to be here, but they're finishing it off. Muriel is beaming with a smile that is corner to corner, looking like the Joker, while the husband is disgusted. It's a recipe for disaster. That marriage ended. By the time that I was also mistreated by that church, it was fizzling away. There were fights, there were wars. The guy who was excommunicated from the church for his behavior against his wife. I was next to follow after that, in the sense that I got excommunicated too. That church just loved excommunicating people. My former church just loved to excommunicate people. He got excommunicated for his neglect or abandonment of his wife. And I got excommunicated for essentially just, I don't know. Why did I get excommunicated from that church? My family was persecuting me. The church had abandoned me. And so I was writing articles in my blog about their abandonment of me, and then they excommunicated me. But I'm trying to help you guys understand that this is an epidemic in the country. It's an epidemic in the country. If South Africa was truly Christian, nobody would have been resisting my marriage to the man that I asked God for. People who don't wait on God for answered prayer are very jealous of people who are waiting on God for answered prayer. Abantu abanga sindisangwa bamonela abantu abasindisiwe ngempela. Unsaved people are jealous of saved people if that all those unsaved people are also professing to be Christians. They are like Cain who kills Abel. So the true body of Christ waiting for answered prayer in this country is severely resisted by witchcraft practicing, professing Christians. They are marrying each other. So when you see them walk down the aisle to each other, and you're like, but why did God give John and Cassandra their answered prayer in marriage? Maybe indeed John and Cassandra are truly Christian, and that's just what God is doing. But John could be getting lured into a marriage by Cassandra, or Cassandra could be korobelad by John. Like Lerato and Tshepo might be getting married, but if you look with a magnifying glass, you will discover that Lerato ujisitse John, ujisitse Temp. Lerato umujisitse, like, yeah. But they both in the church. Bali two bakena Greece, Bali two bakena Rima, Bali two bakena Rivers. Boy too. They are attending some church in these streets, and they are also going for marriage counseling. Go get again. They are busy saying, God bless me with a wife, husband. Exactly. The church will celebrate them. Married couples, they will be put on a roster, on a list. Every Sunday, and you're gonna all ululate on some congratulations. Mary and John, wow. Congrats. Meanwhile, Mary, ujisitse John. That's what's going on. If that wasn't going on, I'd be married. I'd be married. So how many of y'all are in marriages? Lijisitwe, kori. Y'all can tell. My former best friend Bamdlisile. My former best friend Bamdlisile in the worst way. And I keep on getting dreams where it is that she's trying to come back into my life, but denying that she did what she did to me. And she is also trying to stand now, finally, against all of this abuse that men have endured us through. But from a vantage point where she's going to claim herself as spotless all along. Like a little innocent dove that was lured into a marriage asabat by a man that God must punish. But really, at the end of the day, both of them are punish worthy now, aren't they? Because after that man done did that to her, she became a monster towards Abangan Bakhe. She became a monster to me, and I don't know who else she did this to. But usually witches have more than one victim. They tend to go on a rampage, a spree, to shoot down everybody that hurt them. Everything that is making their lives hard and sad, they try to shoot it down. An unloved woman that gets married, the scriptures it is written therein, the earth cannot bear up under her. My friend was already very unhappy with that guy, but she gave him a child and then another one and got married. That's just what I'm getting at. Le korobela, Yamosha, all of these people that love to use korobela, and all of these men that are trying it on me as well. First of all, it won't work because nyabona, but secondly, even if it did work, are you content nje umuntu angajabulanga ngomshado wakhe with you? Like, how in the world under heaven are you going to be at ease? Being the only one with a beaming smile on a wedding day. Only one. Oling here. Only one. That's like, only one that just can't hold back the joy. While the other person is just going through the day. They can't wait to go sleep. They're awkward at the reception. Everything is just weird. Lendo Talena is gonna flirt. You know, it's almost as if though there's something about marriage that once entered into it, if at all you've done it wrong, it just creates cheats out of people that wouldn't have cheated. Flirts out of people that don't generally flirt. Like men all of a sudden flirt with all of the office after they get married, if they have married badly. If at all you're not in the right place, if you're not in the right space, winking like a colleague, a person in the same class that you are attending night lectures with, you are going to find yourself just basically a worse, nasty little thing than you were prior to getting married. Like a man that was proud, walking around in, priding himself in Ndabayoguti. Angjoli Rafrafa, don't just, I'm not going to be that loose cannon in the office that's flirting with every girl. Because I'm above that. I mean, look at me, get terrible. Terrible then, once he's married, is now flirting in the call center yonke. Now that he's married, he's flirting with all the business analysts, all the project managers. Tepo is winking at all the women. Tepo is staying at work late. Just so he can continue to, chat up some colleague that he's working closely with. When prior to him getting married, he was too arrogant to share even one girl. They chase after me, not the other way around. He's the one that's chasing around after everybody, to a point of even being reduced to a little pervert in the office. That's just what happens to men, mabachata badly. And that's also what happens to women when they get married badly. This like random female, there was this chick, the one that used to take me to church for a couple of weekends in a row when I was newly saved. She was so licentious, this chick, guys. She flirted with everyone. Like, she was just, there was a guy that I had such a big crush on. Huge. Like, it was massive. When he started working at MTN, the two of us essentially were exchanging notes, right? Well, maybe not notes, but we were flirting. I had a massive crush on this guy. It was big. It was huge. I thought he was a Christian. And this chick sort of kind of low-key knew that. She knew. She was my friend. I wasn't trying to tell the whole world. I only told one of my friends about this crush because I didn't want people being like, Karabo likes this guy. Karabo, people are, like, the people in corporate are worse even than children in school when it comes to gossip. So I only told one woman that I trusted, that I also thought was a Christian, with my little secret. but everybody else could tell because we were vibing in a way that was obvious in front of everyone. Yeah, we were giddy around each other in a way that was hard to ignore. That way. So even though I didn't say it, everybody knew that Karabo likes this guy and this guy. Let's say his name was Tepang. Karabo likes Tepang. Tepang likes Karabo. It's clear. And I was flirting with Tepang, of course, in a very coy Christian way. I thought he was a believer. I liked him a lot. And this chick, because of the fact that I liked him, like, you know, you've got bad friends. Yeah, I was also quite shy, right? In a way that she, I guess, was not. This chick started. She was married, first of all. She started flirting with Tepang in front of me, especially because I didn't tell her that I liked him. Like, she would like play around with him in ways that make men feel really good about themselves. And this guy was just getting wrapped around her finger, and it broke my heart so much. She was a married woman, but Tepang was not the only guy that she did that with. She did it with Tepang in front of me to basically get at me, because that's what bad friends do. But she also would flirt with other like she used to tell me, men, there are ways that you can get things from men. Like, you're a married woman, what would your husband feel if at all you did that? Other day, you know? Like, respect your husband for crying out loud. But she prided herself in being able to get what she wanted from a man. She prided herself in being able to get whatever she wanted from men. So she would flirt like a lot of guys in the office to get favors done and whatnot, and it was just hard to watch because and this woman became like this after she got married. She got married while working at MTN. I was even at her wedding, and prior to her getting married, she was just okay, nale normal. And then after she got married, she became a little seductress of random males in the office. That's what happens when you now feel trapped in a marriage. When you feel trapped in a marriage with a man you don't love. And prior to her getting married, this chick had confessed that she's not in love with her man the way that she's been in love before. But they had a child together, and that was enough for her to go on right ahead and finish that whole marriage thing with him. My thing with that is, there's a man out there that can love you with your child. If at all you can't be with this guy, you need to get out, set him free. Let him fly. Let him go love somebody else. He will heal from whatever it is that you have devastated him concerning. He will heal. But you cannot just go on right ahead and continue to marry. But she married him knowing that she wasn't that in love with him. And after they got married, she was flirting with all of MTN. So if you want to be turned into a little Casanova when historically you were just kept to yourself, but now that you're married, you're actively flirting with every random new chick in the office. Yeah. If you as a woman want to suddenly start sweet talking and trying to see if you still got it, and flirting and seducing men in the office even though you're married, yeah, you will marry a dude that you are apprehensive about in the run-up to getting married, but you still want to marry him anyway. Gorobela produces this nonsense, this whole phenomenon of all of a sudden soy flamingo or pikoko or babizan, this like ostrich with your head in jefela, like a periscope, scanning the periphery. Still, but you're married. Or flirting with men in the office even though you're a married woman. That's what it will produce out of you. It'll make out of you one of those sordid, nasty people that are being gossiped. Lack of respectability and anisboni. That's the thing, anisboni. But you end up like that. You become calloused. Your character dwindles over time. And then on top of that, there's the kids who are going to think very highly of the man that you no longer want to be with. The end result of this is not only adultery, but lifetime adultery, making it impossible for you to reconnect with God. Because you cannot stay in sin. You cannot walk in the darkness and claim to be of God. You lie on that day, and the truth of God is not in you. You cannot maintain yourself in a sinful lifestyle and call yourself Christian when you are just perpetually in a loop, just running with sin. So when you're living a life of adultery, it's a loop of sin. You cannot, when you are walking in a loop of sin that you're not repenting from, you cannot expect to enter heaven. So the reason why this thing is essentially very condemning and challenging is because of the fact that it leads to everlasting chains. It's a condemnation problem. It's an essential, do you understand? It's a salvation issue. It's a problem with reconciliation to God. Once you feel, guys, lerato lemonade, it's really nice to be in love. Goodness, I would know. Gumnandi. And then when you have found lotando lo in someone that's not umyeni wako, oof. When you have found that love in someone that's not your husband, you're in trouble. You're gonna struggle to shrug it off. You're gonna be like my colleague who wanted to go ayo la nendota over the weekend and then go back to the kids and the husband. When you allow yourselves to marry men that you're not in love with, or women, and you can tell on the wedding day ukuthi something's up lana, you're apprehensive because God has awarded you that apprehension. If you don't sever that impending union. Nip it right in the bud, even when people are going to give you a whole bunch of grief for hurting some person that had to be walked away from because it was not right for you to endure them, even through the fact that you will inevitably fall in love later with somebody else that you cannot just run with. Lerato, it's nice to be in love, but it's also very painful when you can't work it out, when you can't be with umuntu omthandayo. And to be reciprocated to have somebody basically reciprocate, respond in kind. Do you understand what I'm saying? The feelings you have for them, it makes it even harder. And so what's going to happen is that you're going to find yourselves in love with other people that are also in love with you. And just make a decision to stay with your husband anyway, if you're going to be godly. Make a decision to, if you insist on divorcing, stay single and never remarry. That is going to have to be what you're going to have to do. When somebody is in love with you and you're in love with them, you're going to have to tell them, I can't do this. Only divorced. Only divorced. So it's not like you're tied to a husband. And this person is like, but come on, why? Because marriage and remarriage is wrong. You must otherwise be reconciled to your husband. Be reconciled to your wife. Or be single for the rest of your life. You are putting yourselves in the position to endure that kind of melancholy. Being in love with someone that you imagined, but like we're both free to be with each other. But you're not, are you? Because he's somebody else's husband, even though he's divorced from her. And you're somebody else's wife, even though you're divorced from him. That's what this produces eventually. And if you can't exercise self-control against that, you don't get to enter the kingdom of heaven when you are that spotted, that blemished. When you're living a life of adultery, you don't get to enter in. You don't get to enter in, especially when once you've been met with this conviction. Except anybody at all that calls themselves a Christian should have this conviction, because the Bible is clear. But people are selectively hearing. They're selectively listening. They're selectively reading the scriptures. And they are running with whatever it is that is comfortable for them to do for now. Because it's very uncomfortable to embrace the raw reality that you gotta walk out, dog. You gotta move on. Take celibacy for the rest of your days. Or go back to your ex-wife. Or wait for her to pass away. Then you can go into the sunset with that other woman. And even then, that other woman, you gotta make sure that that's the only way. Both your spouses gotta pass away before y'all can marry each other. But guess what? You found each other at 43. You found each other at 37, 35. You found each other 5 years into each of y'all respective marriages. You don't get to just nibble into each other. You don't just get to do that and still be safe in the sight of God. Work out your own salvations with fear and trembling. The kingdom of heaven suffers violence, the violent must take it by force. Many on that last day will try to enter in and not be able, so strive. You must always love the wife of your youth. May her breasts satisfy you always. That's what the Bible says. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself headed towards the house of the immoral woman, the adulteress. Her feet go down to death. She condemns. These decisions that you make in your youth, women, your love for the prospect of being married in Jekpela, men and women that you don't want, goodness gracious, you are going to become an adulteress later on, unless you choose Christ and realize that what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul? If anything causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. For it is better to enter heaven maimed than to enter hell with all of your body parts intact. That's what this means in the end. So Le Korobela that is pursuing the living daylights out of me, I keep on like rapping on against it. I don't want Muriel's wedding. I don't want to be Muriel's husband out here being wed off apprehensive to some dude that is beaming, excited, while I am kind of grossed out. But you know what? And I need to be comfortable. Out of this rut. I'm not going to be Muriel, and I'm not going to be Muriel's husband. And I'm gizo shy, I mean, that's the male version, right? That's what I said. I'm not going to marry a man. First and foremost, and even if mengaboni, just as with my former friend, she did not see, she did not get the dreams. All she knew is that I uncle right lan. Goodness gracious, she got a wedding ring on her finger that she did not flex in front of her friends. We found out that my friend was proposed to. We went to go see Tirisa and this chick was rocking a ring and we were like, whoa, but why didn't you tell us? How long has it been? 2 months? 2 months? 2 months, Kaufel, and so you've been sporting this thing, walking around all of Johannesburg, galloping with it, and none of us knew? That's what happens when a person that is not in love gets married, just feeling like I gotta go through it because I'm pregnant. I'll call happy when on your wedding day, but he's beaming. He's smiling. He's out here telling stories, like telling speeches at that same wedding about how it is that God brought us together. No, he didn't. You lured that woman back into your life. And She is an unloved woman that is married, and Ufra. She hates the violence of black men. She hates the violence of you. In the you reeled her in, and she's wondering if at all she had resisted like me, Naya, would she also be smashing 40? Single, having never had children. Would she also be facing the same challenges as I'm facing? And at this point, like if at all you're married to a man Ngamtandi, you would much rather be Karabo at 39. Single, never having been married. And yet, clean bill of health. Never mind clean bill of health, but clean stats. So you could still basically fall in love and be very happy. Do you guys not fall in love in your 40s? You do. With people in Batana Gapsungabi. Something that you've never felt since you were a teenager. But it is not your husband. It's some other person because you went and rushed down the aisle at 27 and 28. You think that'd be like you literally gotta speed marry before you reach 30, especially you women, to a point when that you are apprehensive marrying, and then you find yourself getting into an adulterous affair at 42. I feel as if though it is much better to marry that man that you get into an adulterous affair with at 42. But instead of it being an adulterous affair, the two of y'all are both one on 39, no more on 42, and you're meeting only now. You wish the Lord had, sort of kind of helped you meet when he was just 32 and you were 29. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. 10 years into Yonke, I guess we gotta speed make babies type setup thing. But you've been single all along, and I've been single all along. So let's do this. It's better to meet that guy, Hona, only 39, another 42, or Hona, only 40, another 43, rather than meet him at that same age, but having husbands and having wives. That's where patience benefits you. You realize that it was worth the wait eventually. At some point, your eyes get open to see that, whoa, came a good decade later, but he's got a clean slate. I'm not Angelina Jolie out just stealing Brad Pitt, am I? I'm just getting freshly married to a man that in and of himself has got the same statistics as me. Better late than never, right? Exactly. Literally better late than never. And you guys make sure that you find the ones at 42 because you insist on rushing past God's patience at 29. Women, this thing of yours being concerned for your biological clocks and being concerned for your geriatric wombs, being concerned for your fading beauty, or being concerned for the fact that society thinks you're worthless after 35 or after 32, that's the thing that's making you marry Muriel or Marabarab. That's the thing that's making you marry very horribly. That is exactly it. You need to wait. I've waited all this time, and all this time I am still viable to fall in love. You take it away from you. I mean, look at me now. I'm 39, and I still look really good. Have you seen? Just go and look at black actors. The other day I was looking at who is this guy? He was acting Go Best Man. What's his name? Come on. Oh goodness, the lead character Go Best Man. I watched some real estate show where he was trying to buy property from some woman. He married a white woman. I forget his name. I've got another phone. I told you guys that I got a phone. Let me just Google him. I want his name. I can't believe I forgot him. Actor's Best Man. Oh, come on. Actor's Best Man. He'll probably pop up first because he's the lead. Tay Diggs. Thank you. Goodness gracious. Tay Diggs. Yeah. Yeah, I was watching some show. Yeah, Tay Diggs. It wasn't him. He was just featured on it. And I don't know how old Tay Diggs. And I went and checked, actually. I think he's in his 50s. Let me just open this. I think he's 50 something. And I was like, whoa. He's been married before we get it, etc. But I'm making a point here. People still look really good older. Y'all. That's the thing that I'm trying to. He's 53. Tay Diggs is 53 years old. And if you were to see Tay Diggs just walking around, he looks better even when he was in his 30s, in his 20s. He looks so good. He looks so good at 53. So what makes you think that you cannot fall violently in love and still be very physically attractive at that age? I don't understand. Tay Diggs looks amazing at 53. I am 39 and I'm turning 40 this year. So I mean, when you think about it in that way, if you were to grab a person that looks like me and marry them off to a man that looks like Tay Diggs, it's like, yo, it was a little late. He's got a couple of gray beard. He's got a gray, a couple of gray hairs. It doesn't matter, but he looks really good. He looks really good. It's just that basic. A couple that still looks really beautiful. Youth, do not let it deceive you into settling. But I mean, what miracle would it be to find a 53-year-old man that looks like Tay Diggs, that's never had children, never been married? It appears impossible, but they exist. I made an example. I'm not saying that I want to marry a 53-year-old man, but I just had to think about, I thought about Tay Diggs because I imagine he looks really good for his age type thing. George Clooney got married, I believe, in his 40s, and he had no prior rap sheet. at all. And so I don't know why women believe that they gotta all marry each other before anybody pops a gray. Like proper. Like, you need to trust that the Lord is the one that ticks your biological clock and not the world. If at all you're waiting on God, if you're waiting on Jesus, you cannot allow you getting past the age of 35 to freak you out to a point of accepting being Muriel's husband or Marabaraba's wife. You just can't. You thoroughly cannot. You cannot. Like, do what it is that Mariah Carey did in that music video of hers, We Belong Together, and just break the marriage, the wedding, before you say I do. However far along the way you might be. Whether you have paid for the venue, whether you've bought the dress, whether you've paid for the price per head, whether you're going to lose half that money, whether you're going to get family members speaking smack about you, or his family basically threatening you, sending you death threats, it doesn't matter. Because they're going to forget. Time is going to progress. That man is better off himself marrying somebody that loves him instead of you, who he's going to be beaming at the marriage of, you, however, being very distressed on your own wedding day. Let's go faster. Imali ain't got jack on a legacy, guys. And imali ain't got jack on eternity. You create a legacy with a husband, do you understand, or a wife. You make children, and these kids prefer you together. And so they are going to give you grief when you separate. Just for the sake of your sobriety, your family, your legacy, and the comfort of your children. Choose well. That you might get old together, and that you might realize yourself as being greedy when you are making like a periscope, looking out there, finding your colleague attractive. Realize that, goodness, I'm being greedy because I love my wife. I actually love my wife. It's just that this beautiful colleague just had to make a decision to start working for my company, and she stumbles me. But at the end of the day, I was not unhappy on my wedding day, and I would do it again. I would marry her again. This woman is just eye candy right now, and she is stumbling me, so let me gouge out my eye and cut off my hand. But bottom line is, I love my wife. Bottom line is, I love my husband. This colleague guy might be kind of fly. He started going to the gym, what's going on? But at the end of the day, I actually really truly do love my husband. I'm happy. I'm happy. It's that basic. We will be attracted to other people across marriages, I suppose. It happens because people are beautiful in this world, guys, and it's hard not to notice them. But when you're happy, you realize that I'm being greedy. But when you are unhappy, you feel robbed. That you are with this blob in the house while all that is out there for you to bite into. And worse off then, are you in a state or a position when those people like you back? Because then you're going to want to have an affair. Then you're going to want to snuggle. Then you're going to want to go on trips that are unaccounted for. And then you're going to cheat. Then you're going to want to divorce and remarry there. And cause all that havoc in everybody's lives when you were just greedy and irresponsible and also condemning your own souls. There are ramifications in life. That's why waiting is so important, because it becomes worth it. I'm 39. If at all the Lord does not rapture the body of Christ and I turn 90, I will remember at the age of 90, literally freaking out at the age of just 40 that I'm not married. Only for me to 2 years from that date, meet a man that now that I am 90, let's count 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Now that I am 90, I have got children that are married and grandchildren. I've got married kids and grandchildren. And at 40, I was freaking out that I had none of that. It's going to seem dumb when I'm 90, won't it? It's going to seem dumb. It's going to seem dumb even when I am 80. Won't it? When I've got grandchildren and kids that are all grown up, being whatever it is that is a spectacular thing here on the earth that they can be. You need to look at things in retrospect. The average lifespan of a human being, the average, mortality rate, what do they call it? Life expectancy is apparently 75. So if I were to meet a man in 2 years from today, I stand to have basically pass away with kids that are in their 30s. So highly likely that I might be a grandmother by the time I die. And by the time kids get to their 30s, I think they're pretty safely happy, or not happy per se, but willing to let go of their parents. I would see my kids through teenage years and 20s, maybe even all of their 30s. Like, y'all need to basically see things with the perspective of God. You can. So I mean, really, if at the age that I'm at, I'm 39. So I'm pushing the envelope, right? Some of y'all are like just 28. Some of y'all are like just 30. You are just 34, and you're already panicking trying to marry some dude because we're at 34, and your womb is about to turn geriatric. I sometimes long that the Lord would give me what it is that I asked for instead of the rapture, so that I could at least have something to back up my testimony with. But I don't know what in the world is coming, but bottom line is I make sense, because at the end of the day, even if I don't get to show you what God can do, the very bottom line of the matter is you are showing what the devil has done to you, because you're cheating, you're having adulterous affairs, you're divorcing husbands and remarrying, you are living lifestyles of sin. And so condemning yourselves, you're struggling to exercise self-control because you are now finally in love at 38. Why didn't you just wait until 38 to meet the man of your dreams? Now that you're finally in love, instead now you're divorcing a man at 38 that you were apprehensive to marry when you were 28. That's just the problem. Look at me, I'm 39. And here it is that you're falling in love for the first time at 39. You still look good. You look in the mirror. Some dude found you so attractive that he wants to take you away from your husband. So what is it, women, that makes you feel as if though you need to rush down the aisle? I really don't know. I do not know. Same thing goes with men, but right now I guess I'm speaking to women, am I not? Y'all need to repent and y'all need to revise the way that you look at life, because South Africa is apostate, and all of this korobela all over the show is accounting for why all of y'all are entering into Muriel/Marabaraba weddings. You're marrying people that you're apprehensive upon marrying. They're happy. You are some kind of way on the wedding day, but you're finishing it off. You're sealing that contract. You are sealing that deal. All that you're doing is putting yourself in a position to have a very hard time being truly godly. And godliness is all that matters. Eternal life is all that matters. You're putting yourself in a position to struggle to be godly, because you're going to struggle to not cheat. And if at all you divorce, you're going to struggle to stay single. And so therefore struggle to not offend God with adultery for the rest of your lives. That's what you're risking. And if at all heaven is not the pearl of great price to you, you need to reassess if at all maybe you ought not just convert it into that. Because nothing else matters on earth other than the acquisition of eternal life. You need to work on your souls. So all of these guys that are all up in my grill trying to revise their strategies, trying to marry me, trying to come in kakorobela, trying to make me Muriel. Not Muriel, but Muriel's husband. On my wedding day, I want to be just brutally excited. I want to be fainty excited. I want to basically pass out the way I am so excited to get married to my man, if at all that's what God will do for me. I want to be in love. I don't want to be maneuvered into love. I don't want to settle. I don't want to gnash my teeth. I don't want to be creasing my forehead, wondering what's going on. I don't want no cold feet. I want to basically feel like I can't marry this man fast enough. And if that's not what I'm feeling, I didn't do it right. I didn't pray right. I did not wait right. I nearly settled for some idiot in America because he proposed marriage and infused a whole bunch of korobela into my drink until I imagined I'll take it, even though there was just so much about him that I just was not happy with. Unang Bora, he didn't make me laugh. On top of that, his doctrine was off. I was apprehensive about so much, but I literally accepted his proposal. I was engaged to him very briefly. I accepted his proposal despite Ang Bora Hakan. Despite the fact that even though I kind of liked him, bottom line is so much was off. I nearly married Muriel. But thank God, the Lord snatched me out of that. So my prayer is that I maybe might just potentially snatch you out of it. I'm speaking to several groups of people here. One, those who are yet to get married, and two, those who upon being married stay with your husbands and wives, either because you cannot have adulterous affairs out there and still be safe in the sight of God. And three, to those that are divorced, do not remarry. And those that are remarried, y'all need to seriously consider separating, because that's the only way you can be sober in the sight of God. Like Marcus Rogers, the only thing that can save him out of whatever he is facing right now is if he's separated from that woman and continue to take care of her, since he keeps on putting babies in her stomach. Because right now he has made out of her an adulteress. That's all that is. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you don't want to take it, like I said, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul? I'm signing out in Christ's name. Get Cran K. Peace. My phone worked well.